Hi everyone. Welcome to this second edition of the webinar to decarbonize the XRPL blockchain protocol. So my name is Mélanie Damour and I'm head of strategic initiatives here at XRPL Commons, and I'll just make a short introduction and share the agenda for today. So our first webinar, which took place in November 2023, was to make a short introduction on key climate concepts around decarbonization, and also introduce CCRI that are here with us today, and also present our initiative to both estimate the carbon footprint and also decarbonize the ledger. So for our agenda today, we have Meghan connected, portfolio manager from Ripple, who will share some brief insights from COP28 around blockchain and climate change. And the majority of the discussion will be led by CCRI with an introduction to MiCA considerations around climate and blockchain, as well as a review of our methodology on assessing the XRPL's core and extended scopes. We'll go a bit more in detail into that. And then we'll also save some time on going over how you, so community members, as well as validators, etc., can contribute to decarbonizing the XRPL, and also next steps. Okay, so I'll leave Meghan to take the lead.
Thank you, Mélanie, and hi, everyone. Yes, so happy to give an overview of kind of what happened at COP28. So as a refresher, this happened at the end of November and early December in Dubai. It was admittedly quite controversial surrounding, the location of it, the COP presidency, kind of what the outcomes were, being hosted in an OPEC state. But ultimately, I think you can say that the whole vibe afterwards is that we're proceeding with cautious optimism. A lot of things got discussed in the opening moments. I mean, even from the loss and damages fund, that kind of materializing within the first hours of the opening ceremony of COP28, and on the voluntary carbon market side, which is primarily, where we focus and what we've been looking at within Ripple. There's been a lot of progress on Article 6. So even though some of the commentary didn't make it into the final text, there was a ton of conversations, mostly around Article 6.2, which deals with this thing called ITMOs, otherwise just known as nation-to-nation transactions, where developed economies can purchase credits from developing economies to offset what are called their NDCs, their nationally determined contributions. And I think that is something, everything around Article 6, you're going to see pick back up in Azerbaijan in November of next year. But in the meantime, you've even just seen in this year alone some really massive pilots and some countries taking the lead on this kind of nation-to-nation transaction concept, mainly Switzerland and Singapore from the developed economy side, purchasing from places like Thailand, from Chad. And at Ripple, we've got a number of projects that are working with us to list on XRPL that are tokenizing credits from some of those developing economies. So Exchange, which is one of our investment partners, has tokenized at the end of last year a number of credits from Chad, national credits that they have listed on XRPL, and are still in the process of finalizing that. And so I do think that you're going to see this kind of concept really pick up in 2024 and get institutionalized after COP at the end of the year. And I'm happy to answer any questions either on the call or privately. But I think when we say cautious optimism, obviously the final text doesn't go nearly as far as we would expect or want or need it to be. But when you just look at the compromise that we ultimately were able to come to That still alone is worth acknowledging and celebrating, to be able to get so much language around, the transition away from fossil fuels and kind of putting the accountability on OPEC and oil and gas, even just acknowledging that oil and gas is a contributor to fossil fuel emissions and getting into the trapping the heat in the atmosphere was a massive step. And so I do anticipate, this year is very politically turbulent, with over half the population globally going to the polls. You see some really big things on the table when it comes to climate. So, we're looking at what happens to the US's involvement in the Paris Agreement if there's certain, outcome of the election. What happens to the EU? You're seeing a lot of conversations around the political stability of green policy in the EU, especially with all of the farmer strikes. The same goes in the UK with the recent the Green Bill being Starmer's Green Bill being kind of watered down a bit, right? And so you're going to see, I think, this year, kind of everything put to test that was talked about at COP28, all of the investment pieces that were talked about, kind of being put to the test by the election cycle. And since COP29 occurs after most of those elections in the year take place, I think you're going to see a very interesting climate, no pun intended on that, a very interesting climate in Azerbaijan. And that's kind of the high level summary, but again, very happy to answer any questions either on the group or privately afterwards.
Thank you so much, Megan, for those insights. So we'll create connections or transmit any questions to Megan if there are any sent here, either on chat or after through comments, etc. If there's nothing outstanding, I think we can move forward with CCRI. So Christian and Uli, I'll let you take the lead.
Share my screen. First of all, thank you very much for having us. So pleasure to be also on this second webinar today. Agenda from our side, threefold. So we have three topics on the agenda. First of all, we would recap why it's actually important to have reliable crypto climate impact data. And we, as already mentioned by Mélanie in the intro, we will double click on the MiCA regulation and the included sustainability disclosure mandate, and what it means for token issuers as well as for crypto asset service providers. Secondly, we will double click on who we are and what we do at CCRI to give you again a bit of background of the work we are doing. Before, in step number 3, the core of the presentation today, we will guide you through our network carbon footprint assessment of XRPL and share the methodology and first results of the core and network and extended network assessment, as well as we will issue a data request to the validators, so a survey. So we will explain the next steps going forward to improve the estimate and give you an outlook and overview of the roadmap to advance this initiative. Jumping in, why do we actually need reliable crypto climate impact data? First of all, on the left side of the chart, the discussion has been highly driven by the adverse climate impacts, which have become significantly large over the past years. So probably most of you are aware of those comparisons of specifically Bitcoin mining with country-level emissions and the like. So this is kind of a topic that has shaped the public perception of blockchain solutions to a large degree. However, at the same time, in the past 2-3 years, the narrative has become more broadly and also focused on blockchain solutions to fight climate change. So from supply chain tracking solutions over the voluntary carbon market and other applications, and also the regulated carbon market, as mentioned by Meghan just now, are really a blockchain use case here. And third, what's really driving demand for our data this year is regulators globally doubling down on adverse climate impact disclosure. And specifically in the EU with the MiCA regulation entering into force, including a very strong sustainability mandate, it's really key to have reliable, high-quality data. Besides MiCA disclosure, there are more regulations that entail disclosure of such data around Scope 3 emissions, but also ESG disclosure mandates. If we double-click on MiCA, and here starting with the implementation roadmap, So the MiCA regulation has been approved and will start applying end of the year. On this chart, you can see the roadmap of the ESMA, so the European Securities and Market Authority, which is driving this implementation and which has issued consultation packages over the past year, providing further insights and regulatory technical standards how to implement the MiCA requirements. And one key topic we are discussing today is the mandate that token issuers as well as CASPs, so crypto asset service providers, need to disclose sustainability indicators to comply with the MiCA regulation starting in December 2024. So what does this mean in detail? So this is an obligation for token issuers as well as for CASPs to disclose climate and environmental impacts. And for the token issuers specifically, this means that each token issuer needs to publish a white paper. And white paper is the term, might be misleading, is a standardized reporting form which has several sections. And one of those sections focuses on the impact of the respective crypto asset on the climate and other environmental related adverse impacts. At the same time, every CASP offering services in the EU needs to disclose the same climate impacts for all crypto assets used in the services on a prominent place on the website. So what this means is that going forward, every token issuer will have a white paper, including sustainability indicators, and every crypto asset service provider will have those indicators on a website. How do these indicators look like? And the ESMA provides 10 indicators to comply with this MiCA requirement. And those 10 indicators span across the domains of energy, GHG emissions, waste production, and natural resources. And within those 4 categories, there are specific indicators, such as energy consumption of the network, the non-renewable energy consumption share of the network, energy intensity, and so on. And if you double click on those indicators, and I won't go through them in detail, but just to give you a sense, the regulator has specified on a very granular level what actually needs to be disclosed, and also capturing very specific aspects such as electricity share associated with validation of transactions and maintaining the integrity of the ledger. So there has been quite a lot of consultation and workshops happening to get to this point. So why are we, or what's our role with this topic? So we from CCRI offer integrated web solutions for MiCA sustainability indicators. So we support crypto asset service providers as well as token issuers to comply with this requirement. Why do we do this? Maybe to give you a bit of background who we are and what we do. So we from CCRI started as researchers at MIT and TU Munich over 8 years ago, and published a first study in 2018, which got us over 1 billion views globally via a statement on CNN. And this translated into commercial requests years later. So in 2021, when Tesla was exploring Bitcoin payments and the first ETFs appeared in Canada and South America, people started to ask for up-to-date data on the research that we had previously conducted. And since then, we've worked with leading blockchain networks. We've doubled down on carbon accounting. We've worked on ESG ratings last year together with CC Data. And this year are really doubling down on MiCA sustainability disclosure. What do we actually do at CCRI? We run nodes ourselves in a controlled environment in our lab in Munich to measure the electricity consumption of nodes on a representative hardware landscape. We use these measurement values to model the carbon footprint of the entire networks. So we look at node counts, we look at node locations, we look at what is happening in the power grids at the node locations to come up with a carbon footprint for the networks, which we can then allocate to single users, which we can allocate to activities on top of base layers, for instance, token activities. So we can help analyze the data for carbon accounting purposes, for ESG reporting, for MiCA compliance and other use cases. On the right side of the chart, you can see a selection of people building on our data set. So for instance, we were mandated to measure Ethereum's electricity consumption before and after the merge. And now this year also supports the XRPL Commons team on the decarbonization strategy. Besides working with blockchain networks, the more data we generate, the more interesting also for crypto users and investors. So we've supported banks, asset managers, investment funds, exchanges in the past years, but also tech companies or other users such as UNICEF, where we donate our data, and UNICEF can use our data to offset emissions of crypto donations. At the same time, last bucket, we also share our data with other data aggregators and users, so such as accounting companies, carbon accountants, other data providers, universities such as Cambridge University, or other players that kind of need such data sets. Besides the work we're doing at CCRI, it's still in the DNA of the company to conduct research. So we regularly publish academic studies, also in journals from time to time, which are covered globally by news outlets. So we remain the go-to source for these kind of data sets. And so what's our USP at CCRI as an independent party providing such data? The first one is really that we have node measurements. So there are others, other universities, startups, accountants that are active in this field, but we are actually the only ones that run nodes and measure the electricity consumption. Second USP is that we cover a large set of coins. So there have been projects for single crypto assets in the past, but we have the only consistent methodology across a wide set of crypto assets applied. And last, we are at the forefront of MiCA sustainability disclosure. So having worked closely also with the regulators over the past years, that's really a topic where we currently see ourselves at the very forefront of this upcoming challenge for the industry. Having said that, I would shift gears a bit and hand over to Uli to guide you through what we actually did to assess the carbon footprint of XRPL, which components are relevant, and how to take this forward. Uli, over to you.
Thanks so much, Christian. Hi, and a warm welcome also from my side. My name is Uli Gallersdörfer, and I lead the technical side of CCRI's business. So when assessing the carbon footprint of XRPL, we first need to understand why it is important to do so. So there are four key reasons to do so. First of all, the energy efficiency is a key decision criteria for corporates, for developers, for investors in a technology, and they want to understand these metrics. The second one is we can't manage what we don't measure, and if we want to mitigate and reduce the carbon footprint of a cryptocurrency, then we need to first understand its carbon footprint. The third reason is that we provide transparency to inform users, regulators, policymakers about XRPL's sustainability, and be public and vocal about the climate costs and benefits of using that technology. And last, also what Christian mentioned, given the upcoming regulation in the European Union, especially MiCA, but also other within other regulations, this becomes more and more important to be transparent here. When we next slide, please. When we think about the scope of the XRPL carbon footprint assessment, in the first webinar, there was an overview of potential steps in the process of running the network, and we are focusing only on the electricity consumption of running the XRPL. We defined two scopes in our assessment. The first one is the core assessment that only targets validators. The reason for being so is that the core network functionality only relies on these validators, and it's a standard for network comparison. So if we benchmark XRPL with other networks, then we should apply the same methodology, and that has been the methodology that was used or was developed for all other networks. And also the regulator itself, the European Union, tells us to focus on the core network as for providing these MiCA indicators. To extend the scope to cover the entire XRPL, including stock nodes, including full history nodes, including also the test networks that are running XRPL, we are able to gather a total carbon footprint of the XRPL. If we look at the numbers, the core assessment with 25.5 tons of CO2 and the extended one amounting up to a total of 175 tons of CO2. When we look at the methodology that we use to assess the network, there are 5 core steps. First of all, we have a hardware selection. We look at the network at XRPL, analyze its minimum hardware requirements, and decide on a representative hardware set for the network. In the second step, we set up the Ripple-D software on these nodes and measure their electricity consumption over a specific period of time, and also track key metrics such as transaction volumes. In the third step, we're able to estimate the total network electricity consumption by scaling these measurement results by the respective node counts that we saw on the previous slide. In the fourth step, we are calculating performance net metrics such as marginal electricity consumption per transaction, and also a carbon intensity to be able in step 5 to calculate the overall carbon footprint of the network. This is what we're doing, what Christian earlier mentioned, that we're looking at node locations and the respective electricity grids and their carbon intensities to come up with a network-specific carbon intensity. When we look at the data, we are based on assumptions. So obviously, we got a lot of experience in assessing these networks, and but also each network has is different in its composition. And we want to talk to you. We want to talk to the community, especially to validators. So if you are a validator, if you are in this call, or if you are watching this recording, we kindly ask you to participate in our survey. So it's a quick survey to understand what hardware you're running, if you're using a cloud provider or if you're using on-premise services, where your node is located, and much more. So it should take about 10 minutes to answer, and it would help us very much if you would fill out the survey by the 20th of April. You can either go via this QR code or to carbon-ratings.com/XRPL-survey. To give an outlook on the next steps, we have conducted this initial assessment of the XRPL carbon footprint, and we want to enhance this first via the survey that I mentioned just now. We are at the moment crawling XRP Ledger TOML files to refine geofootprint. So that is a file that each validator can upload can make a public, and we can use that to enhance our estimates, and we use that to refine our network carbon footprint. In the second step, we are working on an XRPL web sustainability dashboard. So once we got a better understanding of the carbon footprint assessment and the community usage of or the validators, then we're able to develop an XRPL sustainability dashboard, including daily updates, as well as the MiCA sustainability indicators that become mandatory within the European Union. And in the third step, the mitigation measures, the selection process of high-quality offsetting projects to mitigate the climate impacts of the XRPL will start. That's it from our side. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them, or also you can send us an email to hi@carbon-ratings.com. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Christian and Uli. Thank you so much for presenting these slides. So are there any questions from any community member or validator in the chat? And if not, what we'll do on our side is either way is this meeting is being recorded, so we'll publish it and communicate it on our socials. And we'll also share again the survey and the link that both Christian and Uli just mentioned on different platforms, Mattermost, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc., so that anyone who has who is currently a validator and also running a node can help fine-tune the assessment.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here today, Uli, Christian. We're looking forward to getting community's feedback, and we'll be in touch soon.
Great. Any final words or? Perfect. Well, thanks again, everyone, for connecting and taking the time to discuss today, and we'll continue this discussion offline. Have a nice day. Bye.